My son doesn't cry in front of me. I don't allow it. When he doesn't want to eat, when he starts acting up, I tell him, finish your plate. Firmly. And he does. With me, he's always this well behaved. That's the kind of parenting advice I once got from a taxi driver, and I want to dig into it a bit. Because I'm raising a boy too, and I want him to grow up to be a good person. I started noticing this kind of thing pretty early. My son was around 6 months old, barely crawling, can't even hold himself up properly, and relatives were already saying things like, don't spoil him, he's a boy, don't let him get away with too much. 6 months! At its core, this is an instruction to suppress. I grew up in a family of only women. My mom only has a sister, I only have a sister. 2 generations of all female households. I'd never been close to how boys are raised. I'd heard about the problems, emotional suppression, boys should, boys shouldn't, but it was always something abstract to me, something happening to other people. I had a different ones about women, what women should do, what women shouldn't do. Anyway, now my son is 2.5, and I find myself constantly correcting my own parents, my own grandmother, when they say something like that. I disagree with all of it. So here's what we do instead. First, and most important, we don't suppress his emotions. When he cries, we name what he is feeling. You're upset. We comfort him. We let him stay in that state as long as he needs. We ask him, do you want a hug or no? And if he says no, we leave him alone for a bit. He tries to regulate himself. If he needs support, he tells us. Sometimes after kindergarten, he just needs to release. He'll announce very seriously, I'm crying. And then he doesn't actually cry, he just yells. Sits in Ilya's arms and yells. It looks ridiculous, and honestly, I love it. But in that moment, he's overflowing. He's been holding it together all day. I asked his kindergarten teacher how he behaves there. Wonderful boy, well-mannered, says please and thank you. He doesn't act out. He doesn't get aggressive. Except for one case at the very beginning. Nobody there has a single complaint about him, and that's the point. Home is a space where all of it is allowed to come out. Home is safe. Home is where his emotions matter and where they're taken seriously. And our job as parents is to hold that space. When I can't hold it, and this happens, I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. I tap out. I ask my husband to come in. If I'm alone with him, I step away for a minute, breathe, do something else, come back as a different person. Because holding a small child's being emotions is genuinely hard sometimes. I'm not a perfect parent. I'm a parent who's trying. The same principle. Don't override him, don't break him. Show up in a couple of other places. Food. We don't force him to finish his plate. We don't push food into him. And surprisingly, to no one, this seems to have worked out. He eats well. He has no weird relationships to food. He just eats what he wants. He has his refusals. He doesn't try everything. The life hack we discovered, by the way, if you tell him it's chicken, he won't eat it. If you tell him it's a meatball, basically, he'll happily eat this exact same chicken. I'd like to say this isn't really lying, but okay, fine, it's lying. We lie to our toddler about chicken. We've made our peace with it. Household stuff. Here we go in the opposite direction. We actively involve him. He loves loading the washing machine and pressing the buttons. He loves chopping things next to me when I'm cooking. He loves washing dishes, mostly because he loves playing with water. He loves wiping surface because he sees me wiping. I don't stop any of it because honestly, shielding a boy from house chores is too much. It's a whole cultural project and I'm not signing up for it. I don't want to raise someone who can't take care of himself. When he's older, I want him to pick his own chores, his own responsibilities, things he's actually accountable for. And the easier way to get there is to let him be involved now, while he actually wants to be. The one place we are not flexible, we don't hit. Nobody in this house hits anybody. If he gets carried away in a game and starts to raise his hands even playfully, the game stops immediately. No discussion, that's the one line. Okay, we have discussion that we don't do it. I want to step out of this is what we do for a minute, because while I was writing the script, I had a question I couldn't really answer myself. Is any of this actually grounded in anything, or I'm just going on instinct? I'm not a child psychologist, so I did any normal person does. I went to look for information. Here's what I found. There's a concept called the boy code, coined by psychologist named William Pollack at Harvard. He wrote a book called Real Boys back in the 90s, and it's basically the textbook on how boys are socialized. He describes the unwritten rules that govern how boys are allowed to feel and express themselves. 4 big ones. Big stoic. Don't show pain. Be self-reliant. Don't ask for help. Always project confidence. Never look unsure. And most importantly, suppress anything that reads as vulnerable. Sadness, fear, need, longing. The only emotion that's really allowed is anger, because anger reads as strength. Pollack's point is that this code doesn't just suppress how boys express emotions. It suppresses their awareness of emotion in the first place. They stop being able to name what they are feeling, which connects to a second concept I came across: normative male alexithymia, from a psychologist named Ronald Levant. Alexithymia just means difficulty identifying and naming your own emotions. Levant's argument is that men, through whole socialization process, develop a kind of low-grade version of it. They're not bad people, they just don't have the language for what they feel, which then shows up in adult relationship. Difficulty with intimacy, difficulty connecting, difficulty being a person their partner can actually reach. And then the part I really wanted to know, meta-analysis. Those are studies of all the other studies consistently find a negative correlation between alexithymia and empathy, meaning the less you can identify your own emotions, the less you can identify anyone else. The two are linked. You cannot teach a child to feel what someone else is feeling if you haven't taught them to feel what they themselves are feeling so long. Empathy starts from the inside, which was exactly my intuition, so that was the relief. One honest caveat: the original claim that alexithymia is more common in men hasn't held up in every follow-up study. The takeaway is actually better for my argument. This isn't a thing men are born with, it's a thing they're socialized into, which means it can be undone, which is what we are trying to do. So where we are now? Jan is a toddler, and it's way too early to know whether any of this works in the long run. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm running an experiment with one subject and no control group, and I'll find out the result in about 20 years. But there's one thing I do notice now. When I'm sad, actually crying in front of him, he comes over. He looks at my face and says, "Mama, are you sad? Are you crying?" When my husband isn't feeling well, the same thing. He sees it, he names it, he comes closer, he knows how to comfort because we've comforted him. That's the only real signal I have so far. We'll see what comes next. One last thing, whenever I watch my 2.5-year-old walk over and quietly ask if I'm sad, I think back to that taxi driver, the one whose son doesn't cry in front of him. And I think he probably missed something pretty important. Not about his son, about himself. So, thank you for watching. Bye.